Welcome back to Learn SKN, and today we have Agricultural Science Single Award. We have the May-June 2017 CSEC Agricultural Science Paper 2. And so today we're going to begin looking at some paper 2s for agricultural science. And so before we continue, some housekeeping first. Make sure you hit the like button, make sure you share the video, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the notification bell. Alright, so with that out the way, we're not gonna complete the entire paper in this video because it's about 10 questions. We're gonna do about 3 or 4 questions because back then they were a little shorter, but I think after a while they changed the formatting of the question, but the content still remains the same. So let's just jump into these short form questions that made up the previous agricultural science papers. And so we have section 1. Answer all questions in this section. Number 1. State 2 career options that university graduates can consider in the area of crop production. All right, it's very simple. So you have horticulturists, you have botanists, you have agronomists, you have a plant scientist. You might want to look at entomology, that's with the insects. So you have a lot of options in this area. You might want to look at a salesperson because somebody still have to sell the produce and things like that. And so those are some areas, some careers that you can have at a university graduate level. Even a farmer, let's not take out a farmer, because a farmer is also a career you can have whether you're at the university level or not. Some farmers are more efficient if they go away to study, but farming is still part of crop production, and that's the main crop production. And so that's a career you can have. So I gave you a bunch, they only asked for 2. All right, B. The community-based farmers organization that promotes the development of agriculture in the Caribbean approaches the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARDI, and the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, for assistance in improving farming practices of its members. So just the type of assistance that CARDI and FAO could provide to the farmers organization. So that's 2 marks. So just the type of assistance. And so we can easily find this one in the book. And so we have CARDI here. And what CARDI does is it provides technical assistance in areas such as crop production, integrated pest management and farming systems, livestock and forage, environmental and soil management, technology services, for example, the supply of quality plant products and genetic products and services, market research and statistical services, business development and consultancy. So those are some of the things that CARDI can provide to that group, especially this part that mentions the technological services, for example, the supply of plant products, because CARDI they carry out a lot of research in the Caribbean, and so they can better inform the organization as to the better planting materials, the better seeds, the better varieties they can plant in the area and things like that. They can also give them data, market research data, to know how they should plant the crops and stuff like that. They can also give them statistical data so that they can know how certain crops perform, during what time of year you should plant these crops. They could also help them to develop their business in terms of development and consultancy in the business. So these are all assistance that CARDI can give to the organization. So just types of assistance. So these types include livestock and forage, environmental and soil management assistance, technological assistance, for example, the supply of quality plant products and genetic products and services, market research and statistical services, etc. And then if we move down to the FAO now, that's more of an international organization, the FAO, and the kind of assistance they offer would be agriculture and consumer protection, economic and social development, fisheries and aquaculture development, forestry, natural resource management and environment, technical cooperation. And so one of the key things with FAO, is that CARDI would be one of those institutions that offer a lot of technical assistance, actually come on ground, have workshops, and tell people how to do certain things. Apart from technical assistance, FAO can also offer financial assistance. a lot of programs out there. FAO use their monies to help a lot of countries in the Caribbean to develop their agricultural product. And so the FAO, their main effort is to reduce and defeat hunger, and as such, they are going to try and improve the agricultural sector in any way they can. And so we're talking about, similar to CARDI, technological assistance, technical assistance, financial assistance. They also compile a lot of data. CARDI would map, different areas. They would give you statistical data and marketing, well, not marketing per se, but a lot of statistical data. They do a lot of papers, so research, a lot of research papers they sponsor and things like that. So FAO, those are some of the assistance you can get from that organization. And that would be the end of question 1. Question 2. State 2 factors of production other than land that a farmer should consider when expanding his farm. And so for factors of production, there are 4. You have land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship or enterprise. And so 2 other factors of production would be capital, labor. So they might want to spend more money on machinery, or they might want to hire more persons as their farm expand. They might want to also hire, improve the expertise, so the entrepreneurial skills. You might want to brush up on the skills, things like that. So those are the other factors of production. So it's land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, but they say other than land. So it could be labor, capital, entrepreneurship, or management, and that would give you the 2 marks. Then we have this one. CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME, seeks to deepen economic integration among Caribbean states. So there's 2 benefits of CSME to agriculture sector in the Caribbean. And so this one is only 2 marks, but it can be real deep. So benefits of CSME in agriculture sector. And so if you look in your textbook, you can see the little flowchart with CSME. So CSME, removal of barriers to trade, right? So CARICOM handles that. But for CSME, what it facilitates is the free movement of goods, the free movement of services, the free movement of capital, and the free movement of people. So can you imagine how CSME would benefit agriculture? Because right now in the Caribbean, for example, in some of the Leeward Islands, you have boats coming from St. Vincent, Dominica, and selling the agricultural products. So right there you see that CSME would expand the market for agricultural products. No longer are you going to just be reduced to your area, your country, but because of CSME, free movement of people, you can actually move from one country to the next and embark and sell your stuff. All right, then they have the free movement of capital. So what this means is that you can go from one member state to another member state, and you can invest in various ventures, various agricultural ventures, and so that would benefit the member states. You're taking capital from one, put it into a next. The free movement of, where we look at goods already, with the boats coming in from St. Vincent, Dominica boat, those kind of things, allow the market to expand. And then you have the free movement of people. Now, if one area is too crowded, too many persons in a country, or if a country doesn't have the opportunities you're seeking, you can actually move to a next country, within the CARICOM CSME region, and start your own farm and start your own agricultural business, and set up just like that. Because all of us, without any extra paperwork and things like that, because all of us are part of one single market, one economy. So CSME enables the movement of goods, services, capital, and people across member states in the Caribbean. This means that the production and marketing operations are promoted and supported in an enlarged single economic area. See, promoted of, you see what I say here? Production and marketing. So you can move from one island to the next to produce. You can market and sell your stuff to one island to the next. There is a better environment for the competitive production of goods and services for external markets and for markets within the region, interregional markets. So those are some benefits to gain from CARICOM. As it relates to production, you can produce where you want, larger land area. In terms of marketing, you can sell your produce from multiple islands, not just the one that you live in, and things like that. And so entrepreneurs in CARICOM region are able to use their talents and resources more fully, trade freely between themselves and without obstacles, establish and service markets in other states, as I said before, attract capital or investment and use funds in other states, hire skilled workers from any of the member states, resulting in a greater efficiency, competitiveness, production, and increased profits. So all here you have the benefits of CSME. which is a part of CARICOM. The removal of trade barriers and opening up of the new opportunities for the 18 million CARICOM nationals enables the CSME to stimulate growth. And so the book goes real in depth with these things, and we just basically giving you the tip of the iceberg, because it's only 4 marks, so you can't go too deep with this one. So that's it for question 2. Now question 3, we have figure 1 represents a typical soil profile. So you have X, Y. State the name of the layer labeled X and the layer labeled Y. So you have your topsoil, subsoil, partly weathered material, parent rocks. Then you have this layer here that is filled with humus. X is filled with humus and organic matter. That's the layer right there. So that's like the O layer right there. So state the name of the layer. So let's check what we have in the textbook. And so you can see in the textbook, look at this is what they have here. So you can see that X would match to the O layer, right? So that's the O layer. So state the name of the layers labeled in X and Y. So that's the O layer, or the organic matter. But all of this would be a part of the topsoil. So even though you see that there, that's part of the topsoil still, right? And then you have Y right down here, and Y would be subsoil. That's the subsoil just before the parent material or the partially weathered material. So you have the subsoil right there. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 in the soil profile. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Your topsoil, your subsoil, and you'd have some partially weathered material before you meet the parent rock. Right? So that's how you define, that's how you label those things. So you're gonna have Y as your partially weathered material, and you have and then you have X, which would be your O layer, organic material layer, or it's still a part of the topsoil. So you can put that / that if you would like. Sometimes this question can be a bit tricky, because sometimes you don't know whether they want you to, name the layer as in A, B, C, D, or if they want to name the layer as in A, B, as in topsoil, subsoil, partly weathered material. Sometimes it's a little tricky, right? So that's where the trick comes in. So, but for this one, that's why I said you could put this / to make it nice and safe. For example, X would be topsoil, but the first part of the topsoil, called the O layer, would contain a lot of organic matter, humus, that kind of thing. Then you have your subsoil, and after the subsoil, you have your partly weathered material. And that's how we do that one. All right, so B. Mr. John is a food crop farmer who fertilizes his plant based on their stage of development. He uses a mixed fertilizer labeled 20-10-10 NPK for young non-bearing plants. Briefly explain the benefits of the fertilizer labeled 20-10-10 NPK to the young non-bearing plants. And so what we have to look at here now is, so this actually what happened here. So this is a ratio, right? So this is a ratio. So that's 20 represents the N, nitrogen. The 10 represent phosphorus, and the next 10 represent potassium. And so you see there's more 20, so there's more nitrogen than there are phosphorus and potassium. And so that means that this fertilizer is dedicated to more of the vegetative development of the plant. So this part, so N, nitrogen, is used to develop the leafy, the vegetative part of the plant. So nice, healthy, lush green leaves, solid stem, and branches and things like that. So you realize they stipulate non-bearing, because if they were bearing now, then you would have reduced the nitrogen, so N would have been down, and then you would have carried up the phosphorus and potassium, or at least the middle one, to help with fruit development. But because it does not reach the fruit development stage as yet, we want the vegetative, the leafy parts to develop, and so that is why you would give it more nitrogen than the others. So that's what the benefit of this fertilizer is to the non-bearing plant. It helps to develop its vegetative parts, its flower, its leaf, It stems, everything on develop nice and strong. Question 4. Tissue culture is a method of propagation that may be used to propagate banana plants. Give one advantage and one disadvantage of tissue culture. Advantage, disadvantage. Now, of course, after that, disadvantage, too expensive. Very expensive. Tissue culture might cost too much and it requires too much technical know-how. So that's one, two disadvantages right there. Too expensive and it is too technical. Might cost, you need a lab, you need equipment, things like that. So that's a disadvantage. Now, advantages now would be that the banana plant doesn't have real viable seeds, right? So it doesn't have viable seeds. And so if you use tissue culture, meaning you take a part, cells from the plant, parts of the plant, and you develop a full plant from that. You propagate a new plant from that. So you don't require any seeds to conduct tissue culture. So there's that advantage right there. The plant can be propagated without any seed. Also, it's a little bit more, how should I put it? It's a little bit more, the probability of it surviving is a lot higher than if you were to use the seed for germination of a banana plant, or if you were to wait until the old one dies and the young one pop up from its sucker and things like that. So it's a sure way of propagating the plant. You're gonna get results, a better result than if you use the seed or the shoot from the old plant. Also, the genetic makeup would be very close to the parent plant. The genetic makeup would be very close to the parent plant. So if you had a nice sweet banana tree and you use tissue culture, then the offspring would be very, very close to the parent plant. So those are some advantages and some disadvantages of using tissue culture. A next advantage is that it's relatively faster than other methods of plant propagation, relatively faster, and you'll get a lot in a shorter span of time. So those are some advantages of tissue culture. And as I said, disadvantage, very expensive, very technical, so not anybody can do it. It requires a lot of equipment and things like that. The last one for this video, Farmer Tim relies heavily on inorganic pesticides to grow vegetables. His crop yields are good, but he is concerned about impact of these chemicals on the environment. So there's two ways in which Farmer Tim could reduce his impact of inorganic fertilizer on the environment. Okay, first things first, use less. Now, to use less, of course, Farmer Tim would have to use alternatives. And so he'll have to go and seek out some organic means of fertilizing his plants, use some manure, things like that. So, turn to organic fertilizer, use less. Also, Farmer Tim can plant certain crops. His planted material can be of crops that are resistant to certain pests and diseases. So if you plant a crop that is resistant, then you would not have to use as much, and then because of that, you will reduce the impact on the environment. Also, Farmer Tim must also time. He needs to time when he uses this chemical, and you have to know how to use this chemical. So therefore, do not use it when the winds are high and it sprays down and contaminate water, kill bees and things like that. You use it when the situation is correct. So those are three ways Farmer Tim can reduce the impact of inorganic fertilizer on the environment. So 1, use less, go organic. 2, get a plant that is resistant to the pesticides. The types of pests and disease, more resilient, more resistant. And 3, do not use in certain poor environmental conditions, and so you can reduce the impact on the environment. Also, of course, Farmer Tim must now learn how to dispose of these things properly. So you have to dispose of the wasted materials properly. Don't just throw them down in a waterway or anything like that. You have to dispose of them properly. Storage, you have to store them properly. You don't want to have to store them in a place where they can be exposed to the environment, to the atmosphere, and contaminate the environment. So all those are ways that you can reduce the impact on the environment. Alright, so that's it for now. Next video, we're going to jump in. We're going to look at question 5 and 6. So the only way to know when Learn SKN drops another 2017 Mid-June Agricultural Science Single Award Paper 2 The only way to know when it drop is to like, subscribe, and of course hit the notification bell. Alright, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening.